everybody, and welcome back. Today, I decided that I'd go over the 25 laws of magic that I utilize during my day to day practice. Now, many of these laws that I've come across are not my own laws that I made up or anything. I mean, a lot of them I've either come across through studies, come to know. Um, you'll find that some of these are literally just the seven Hermetic principles of the Kybalion that I've incorporated into laws, essentially, that I follow. Um, and I'd like to just go over some of these with you, and maybe if some of these resonate with you, feel free to incorporate them in your practice. None of these laws are in any particular special order or anything. So, to start off with the law number one, the law of knowledge. Knowledge is power. To affect the thing, you must know the thing, and understanding brings control. Self-explanatory, I think. We move on to the law of self-knowledge. Know thyself. The more you know about yourself, the more you can know about something else. Essentially, as above, so below, as within, so without. The more you know about yourself, the more you'll come to understand perhaps like the psychology or nature of human beings around you and whatnot. Next, we have the law of cause and effect. Under exactly the same conditions, using the same actions and thoughts, will always attain the same results. Effects follow causes and vice versa. The Kybalion additionally states, every cause has an effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to the law. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Every action has an equal reaction. You can almost attribute to this like the idea of karma in a sense. Next, we move on to the law of synchronicity. Two or more events happening at the same time are likely to have more in common than the brief moment in time in which they happen. Very few events ever happen in isolation from other events. There is no such thing as a mere coincidence. And this sort of almost ties back into the law of cause and effect in a way. There's no such thing as a coincidence. Everything has a sort of rhyme or reason. There is always some domino effect in the past that has led up to the manifestation or the synchronicity that you are experiencing at the present moment. This also ties in with the present moment itself. Perhaps, for an example here, you fall ill with a cold or a stomach ache or something before work. You end up calling out and staying home. And then later in the day, you hear there was a dreadful car accident down the road on your way to work. And given the timing, you might have found yourself in that accident if you had went to work that day. It might seem like a coincidence at first, like, oh, I was just ill, whatever, but you might find it interesting to know that perhaps there is more in common with those two events than one may initially realize. And that is the law of synchronicity. Now we have the law of names. If one knows the whole and complete name of a phenomenon or entity, one has complete control over it. Names are definitions and mnemonic memory devices. Names are very much powerful, more powerful than people realize. It is to some an energetic signature. As my notes say, it's a mnemonic memory device, a definition of the very person, entity, or phenomenon. So be careful who you give your name out to. We move on to the law of association. If two things have something in common, anything, that thing can be used to control both. Little example that I can provide here is perhaps you work at a law firm, uh, John and Buck's law firm, and someone wants to do magic on you. Well, you've associated yourself with this law firm that you work at. You've been working there for many years, you've made a name for yourself there. But the person does not exactly know a whole lot about you. They very well could turn and use the law firm against you to control you. Be careful who and what you associate yourself with. So here we have the law of contagion. Objects or beings in physical contact with each other continue to interact with each other after separation. Everyone and everything you have ever touched or been in contact with has a magical link with you. A wonderful example I can provide, I have a very close, very good best friend that I've been friends with throughout my childhood. And we often discovered very odd and humorous synchronicities with one another. I remember the time that I started learning how to play the harmonica. Out of nowhere, I just get this deep inspiration to start playing the harmonica out of nowhere. And I started teaching myself how to play. I was doing pretty well, I'd like to say. About a week later, I call up my friend, and this is probably back in like late middle school, early high school. I call up my friend, and I'm like, "Hey, I've been getting into playing the harmonica. I want to show you, my skills that I've been learning." And he's like, "Whoa, that is funny, because I just started getting into the harmonica too." I'm like, "Wow." Very synchronistic moment right there, That is one of the examples that rings true, that just blew my mind at the time. Now we move on to the law of polarity. Any pattern of data must split in at least two opposing characteristics, and each will contain the essence of the other within itself. All truths are but half-truths. The Kybalion also initially states, everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same, opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet, all truths are but half-truths, all paradoxes may be reconciled. This is a law that I find to be very important to my workings and my day-to-day life. I feel Frater Xavier does a much better job at explaining this than I could. So I would highly recommend you go and check out his channel and watch his video on the law of polarity. Here we have the law of identification. With your will, you can become anything. Be one with anything. With complete association between your meta pattern and that of another entity, you can become that entity. You can then examine your own meta pattern from the point of view of that entity. Really nice law to have. Helps with introspection, looking at yourself from a new perspective for introspection, and just attaining that oneness with your environment. Now we have the law of infinite data. There is more in the universe than we can sense or know. Learning never stops. I like to follow up this one with a quote that I love to say all the time. If there is one thing that I know with utmost certainty, is that I know nothing. We move on to the law of infinite universes. The total number of universes in which all possible combinations of existing phenomenon can be organized as infinite. Anything is possible. Next, we have the law of synthesis. The combination of any two energy forms will result in a third energy form more complex than the combination of the original two. Silly example I can provide here is, think of an Oreo cookie. You got the cookie itself, and then you got the cream. By themselves are pretty decent. Together is something much more sophisticated, and I'd say more enjoyable as well. Now we have the law of invocation and evocation. There are forces outside and inside you that you can tap into and direct through your thoughts or your mind. I could probably make a whole video on this alone, which I'll probably do a little later down the road. So stay tuned for that one. We move on to the law of pragmatism. If a pattern of belief or behavior enables a being to survive and to accomplish chosen goals, then that belief or behavior is true, or real, or sensible. If it works, it's true. So don't let anyone tell you what's real or what's not real. Take everything with a grain of salt until you've experimented with it and incorporated it into your work. And then you can make the determination whether it is real or not. Law 15. Law of free will. Events are predestined, but each person chooses whether and to what extent to participate in them. You may not always be 100% in control of destiny, but you can always make the decision on how you react to it. And that reaction alone may be the defining factor of your future. It was always your choice. Law of unity. Every phenomenon in existence is linked directly or indirectly to every other one, past, present, or future. Perceived separations are based on incomplete sensing and understanding. Kind of goes back on the whole law of cause and effect and synchronicity to a degree. That time may not operate in the way that we think it does. Law of consent in contract. Contracts are binding, and if you don't adhere to that binding of your contracts, you are likely to face consequences. Know before you consent and bind. Every time you write a signature on a contract, you're writing it more often than not in the color black with a black pen or perhaps a blue pen. These colors correspond with Saturn. I learned that from Frater Xavier a while back. And we all know Saturn is very much planet of binding in that sense. Be careful to who or what you bind yourself to. Next we have the law of attraction. Whatever you put out into the world, be it positive or negative, will be returned to you. A simple shift in perspective will attract and manifest similar synchronicities or results. This is why perspective is key. Maintaining a positive mindset, an abundance mindset, will attract abundance to you. People with the scarcity mindset, with negativity, will attract more negative synchronicities and events to occur. So, knowing yourself and working on yourself is crucial if you walk the path of the magician or the occultist. We move on to the law of least expectance. Magic almost never manifests, works, or happens when you expect it to happen. Set it and forget it with full confidence and faith. This is another one of those laws that I could probably do a whole video on as well. You have to be confident in your magic and your ritual. Know that it will manifest and have full confidence, and you have to forget about it. Completely let go. If you are dwelling on it, you are holding the magic in you. You have not asserted your confidence into the universe for manifestation. So always set it, forget it, and move on, and it will manifest. Give it time. The law of silence. The less people know about your magical operations, the less they will work against you, both consciously and subconsciously. Do not cast pearls before swine. When you talk to people about your magic and your work, especially when you're still in the process of doing your rituals or work, you are inviting others to participate in the work itself. And people who aren't magically inclined may consciously or subconsciously work against your magic. Be careful on who you talk to and who you tell about your works and operations. The next 5 laws that I'm going to cover, the last 5, are from the Kybalion. We begin with the law of mentalism. All is mind, the universe is mental. It is all spirit, consciousness experiencing itself within itself. The whole experience here in this universe, merely just another faculty of the mind, of consciousness. I may go over the 7 Hermetic principles by themselves in another video. I don't want to make this video too long, so we'll cover this on a later date. Next is the law of correspondence. As above, so below, as within, so without. All things known or unknown fall in unison, high or low. Next, the law of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Everything resonates as a frequency, from the atoms to the universe. We move on to the law of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. Rhythm forever compensates. Balance always achieved. Finally, we end with the law of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine traits. Gender manifests in all planes. As always, in the description, I will have some links for you that you can follow to the Kybalion, couple of Frater Xavier's videos covering some of the topics I covered tonight. And as always, thank you for tuning in, listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good day.